Become a better personal trainer by becoming a better man. Become a better man by applying knowledge from others who've walked across the fire and have a thing or two to say about it. Listen to Joe as he delves into some of the greatest minds of the best coaches in the world, who bring inspiring stories and powerful insights to share about the human condition. Hear how the fitness industry goes only muscle deep, and how a new breed of trainers are using emotional and mindset hacks to improve as men, evolve their game, and make the competition irrelevant. Trigger your pathway to greater fulfillment. With us, stand in the face of fitness. Welcome to the Fit Man Collective.
Hi and welcome to the Fit Man Collective podcast. I'm your host Johanny, and with me today is Jodi Rumack, who owns the Fitness Business Maximizer. Over the last 16 years, Jodi has hired, trained and developed 1,000 plus personal trainers and managers across Canada, broken company records for GoodLife Fitness in PT sales, which is the largest private fitness club chain in Canada. She's been featured in and contributed to Fitness Business Canada magazine, Fit Pro magazine, the Personal Trainer Development Centre, and appeared on the Fitness Business podcast talking all about hiring the right staff for your facility and more. Consulted for facilities to increase their monthly revenues by 300+%, and has built teams and driven sales in clubs that's generated over £800,000 a year. $800,000 per year. Recognised as one of the top 500 employees at GoodLife Fitness. With a host of accolades and experience against her name, I'm sure you are eager to listen to the show and what she has to say. So without further ado, here's the magnificent lady herself, Jodi Rumack. Hi and welcome to the Fit Man Collective podcast. I'm your host Johanny, and with me today is Jodi Rumack, who owns the Fitness Business Maximizer. Jodi, welcome to the show. We spoke briefly before about how you're the first female guest to feature on this show.
Love it.
How do you feel about that?
I feel awesome about it. You know, I've in the fitness industry, you work with males all the time, and that's just how it is. So no problem. Good to go.
Excellent. Good. So before we move on, it's probably best or a good idea that you introduce yourself and tell the audience what it is that you do and what you're so passionate about.
Absolutely. So right now I do fitness business consulting. So I work with different fitness clubs, studios, and in-home businesses as well to help them maximize their business, to basically take, everything that they're doing right now and tweak it, put in some systems for them and really be able to create the maximum, return that we can in their business so that they can, free up their time and make more money.
Yeah, I read on your website, and your experience and profile is excellent. And not only are you super passionate about helping these leaders in the industry, but helping them create multi-six-figure businesses. An integral part of what you're doing and what we've shared is, or what we spoke about, is your genius zone, is the love of people, the love of numbers, and the love of systems. How did that come about?
Oh, good question. I've always been a numbers person. Like, I guess, maybe it's not cool, but I always loved math in school. I always liked that stuff. So when I worked in the corporate world, I really started to understand how important knowing those numbers was. And so for me, it was sort of natural to just, get into that because I always liked numbers in the first place. And now I was realizing how much it was helping me run and grow my business. So that just made sense. The system stuff, again, like I remember when I started my very first job, which wasn't in fitness, and I woke up every single day thinking, why the heck am I doing this? But I remember when I was there, I would tell my boss, like, if you want me to do something, give me something where I need to create the system. Tell me what it is now, and let me show you how to make it better. And I didn't realize at the time, 15 or so years ago, that having systems was such an important part of a business. I just thought this was something I liked to do. Again, that kind of just, I don't know how that came to me. It just did. But I think too, have you ever heard of Marcus Buckingham?
No, I haven't. No.
So he's like a leadership type guy, and he talks all about like using your strengths more. And one of the things that I did was I went through his book, and you can go through and take this test, and it tells you what your top 5 strengths are. And one of mine as of like, again, 10 years ago was maximizer. I never knew at the time what that really meant. And then here I am being like, okay, I'm using my systems, I'm using my math stuff, and here we are. So it's funny how things all kind of come together.
It's like the universe trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
Talking of numbers and systems, I suppose it's, as trainers, we thrive on structure, don't we? Though it's one of those things that we tend to neglect, and I'm sure we're going to get into some questions about that, the meat of this interview. And this kind of leads me on to the next question. What best tips and advice would you give to a new trainer that's just entering the fitness industry? They've just recently qualified. They're looking to get hired at a gym, commercial gym. What are the gym owners looking for that would help this trainer stand out, for one, and two, get hired?
Sure. Yeah, I think, some of the most important things in terms of trying to get hired really has nothing to do with your actual ability to be a great trainer. In the first place, you want to show that you care and that you're interested and that you're organized. So, for example, when you get on the phone with somebody, you want to make sure that you've already looked at their website. You already know about them. You know what they're about. You know what they're trying to do for their clients and their staff. You know what kind of programs they run. And really, you want to try to apply, I would say, to 5 places maximum at a time, and really focus on them and, track what you're doing, track who you applied to, track when you sent your resume in. If they don't call you, follow up with them. If they do call you and you get an interview, after the interview, follow up with them. So way too many trainers, like when I first started my business now, I was doing a lot of recruiting. And I would get on the phone and tons of people would either have not looked up the website, they didn't know anything about the company they were applying to, or they would say, when I first called them to say, I'm calling on behalf of this company, we'd like to set up an interview, they'd be like, it was like they wouldn't remember that they applied. Yeah. Because they literally sat on their computer and applied to 20 different places in one night.
Yeah.
And they didn't pay attention to what they were doing. And so as an owner or as a manager, especially like in a commercial gym or the manager, but as an owner too, if you're applying to a studio or something like that, it's kind of a turnoff when someone doesn't even know the job that they applied for. So I'd say it's really important to do your research, make sure they're following up. I would even recommend that people go and drop off their resume in person. Online is great. And even if the club says that's how they want it, I would send it online, but then go in with another copy and say, hey, here's who I am. I had sent my resume in the other day, wanted to make sure you got it. In case you didn't, I have another copy, right? Follow up, be proactive. If you want to be a successful trainer and you're not willing to be proactive and take initiative, you're not going to make it.
And there's some great points there. And I just recall my time, and I believe, there's one gentleman that we hired, the front of house, Ben. He actually came into the studio and handed his CV, and he'd done his homework, and he took me back by surprise because I just wasn't expecting it. And you knew 99% of that particular moment that he was going to become or get hired over anybody else, just purely because he went that extra mile. I think also what you said about being really professional about this and really prepared is, I can't count how many emails I received that the email address just wasn't professional. I don't know if this is just me being picky, but it's just something that probably
for sure
they set up when they was 13 years old, and it just stayed with them until their early adult life. And it just in my head, that's a put off. And I'm very particular with stuff like that. So I think you're very right. And they have to really act professional about this because essentially this person's going to be representing that person's brand, right?
Absolutely. And I think too, when you're the owner, the manager, you have to remember when you're looking to hire somebody that this person is representing themselves in the best way that they ever will. So if they're not up to this standard, I guess one of the other things, I cut myself off, but one of the other things too is arriving on time, which to me is 15 minutes early, and dressing appropriately. So my recommendation is actually always that people go in business casual unless they were told otherwise.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. A trainer's natural instinct is to turn up in fitness gear, right?
Yeah.
But no, I 100% agree with that. I would much prefer somebody to turn up in business attire or at least look casual smart.
Yeah, like I don't actually mind if they come in fitness gear, but it doesn't make you stand out. So it's not something that would make me turn them away or anything, or make me think badly or negatively, but it wouldn't also make them stand out to me. Somebody who comes dressed in a dress shirt and dress pants and proper shoes with their hair done, you know, that's somebody who really looks like they're trying hard to get this job. And I always hire for personality and train for skill every time.
Yep, very true. And I recall a memory of a trainer that we was hiring, and we invited him to the studio, and he really took it upon himself initiative to introduce himself to our members, our clients, before I even had to say anything. And that, as you said, leaves a lasting impression, or it's an immediate impression that it makes me stand back and think, okay, this guy, you've got something about him. It wasn't forced, it was very relaxed. And your clients ultimately are going to make that choice whether that person's right as well.
Yes, for sure. Great.
So moving on to my next question. So we're talking of a personal trainer that's transitioning from a commercial gym, is ready to own his own studio. Who would you recommend that he hired first, and why?
Okay, great question. So, I mean, usually when you're going to open your own spot, you are probably planning to run the place yourself for a while. And most people aren't going in with thousands and thousands of extra dollars in their pockets. You know, you're going in, maybe you got an investor to help you build the space, or maybe you built up your previous business so well that you're doing it on your own. That's amazing. But most people don't have a ton of extra. So I think the first thing that people would want to do is invest in the people who will help you get the things done that need to get done, that allow you to do the things that you're the best at and that only you can do. So, you know, instead of looking to hire another trainer right away, you might hire a social media person, you know, to do your postings or your ads. You might hire a virtual assistant who can help you, you know, do things on your website, or, you know, you might hire a designer to help you create some nice images that you can use instead of trying to create it yourself. An accountant or a bookkeeper, someone you might hire 5 or 10 hours a week. So I would do that kind of stuff where you're hiring out on more typically on a contract basis, where you kind of use them for the hours that you need them, and then that's it. You don't have to pay them on a regular basis. They're not somebody who's completely depending on you for their livelihood. And by hiring that type of person to help you with those other tasks that maybe you're not, you know, the best at, or you don't know that well, those are the things that are really going to free up your time so that you can do the things that you really need to generate revenue. So that will help you, you know, be able to get into your community and be able to generate leads and to be able to really take care of the clients that you have and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, great points. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That I think, thinking back on my time, is we as a personal trainer, we just don't have that business mindset, that business acumen to think.
Right.
We don't actually think about the other areas that we've got to focus on. We're still thinking that like a trainer, that we're only just working with our clients, and then we're confronted with these different tasks and other stuff in the business that we never considered, basically. So we're spreading our energy too thin, which then in the long run, it might be in the trainer's mind, okay, I can save money by doing this myself, especially in the short term. But what you'll find is your service, what you become known at, good at, starts to decline. And slowly but surely you start, your service to the client starts to decline. And going back to the first point is, it makes sense to hire out to people that are better than us at those particular areas, so we can continue.
Absolutely, I think, and I think it can be something. It can be hard sometimes for the owner to pass things along, right? Because you're used to taking care of everything yourself. Some of us really like to control everything that's going on, but you know, the reality is that not opening up to having other people help you, and you know, how to pass off the work and all of that stuff in itself is a system. And we're going to get into that stuff a little bit later, I think. But you also need to have those systems in place so that you can properly tell or show somebody how you want something done, so that it's done the way that you're looking for, but it isn't done by you. So that in itself is a system of being able to communicate, you know, how something is going to get done so that they know what to do for you. And you're not, again, at that point, wasting time going back and forth. It wasn't done properly and stuff like that. So that's a kind of another part of it. But certainly you want to be open to having other people help you out in the areas that you're not the strongest.
Yeah, great advice. And 100% I'd agree with all of that. Moving on to the next question. Where can gym owners and managers find great talent for their fitness business?
Okay, this is a great question. And I always kind of think like great trainers don't grow on trees. You know what I mean? Like the reality is if a trainer is really, really strong, in my experience, generally those people are either already running their own business or they might be in a corporate scenario, but they've been there for years and they're not leaving. So if you're looking for somebody who's a really great trainer, again, in my opinion, in my experience, you need to create that. So like when I'm looking for people, I like to hire for personality and train for skill. If you have the know-how, I would definitely build an internship program so that you can bring people on and you can start to train them in the way that you want them to be working and show them how you do things. And in the internship, that really allows them some time to show you what they're all about, right? Are they great at communicating? Do they get along with the clients? You know, are they coming in on time every single day? Do they come in their uniform? Do they do their programming on time? Maybe it's not the best programming to start with, but the internship is so that they can learn, right? Maybe, you know, you're seeing potential and they've got some great basics when they start. And then you work with them during the internship, which maybe lasts 8 weeks or 12 weeks, something like that. And then you're moving them through. Do they progress, right? And at the end, you're having the opportunity to choose the 1 or 2 people who do the best in the internship to actually come on with you. So for me, it's like, you need to create these people. They don't just show up and say, I'm an amazing trainer. Here I am.
And it's funny you should say that. My first coach, who actually was my brother, he was a laborer to begin with.
Right.
And Jeff, he was just just came out of university. He was just unsure of what to do. He wasn't sure that the fitness industry was actually his calling, and he turned out to be an exceptional coach. And that was my question: Would you hand select certain people? You might be in a restaurant, you might be in a cafe. Would you advise that as well? If you felt that somebody had potential and they were looking for a different opportunity, possibly, obviously you can orchestrate it better than that. But would you hand select? Would you hand select people, kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. So funny that you should say that because I have it here in my notes. You know, when I was working in corporate, I was opening fitness clubs across Canada. So sometimes we were opening in smaller cities, places that didn't really have a lot of certified trainers, where fitness really wasn't as big of a thing there. Maybe we were one of the first gyms that even existed, stuff like that. And so, yeah, absolutely. We hired people out of restaurants. We hired people out of retail stores because at the end of the day, if you look at the skill set, right? If you look at the skill set of somebody who's serving you, they know customer service, they know sales. Those are the 2 things that people need to be really good at. Are they connected with you when you talk to them? Do they look you in the eye? Are they friendly? Right? Are they outgoing? Do they look fit-ish? You know what I mean? And if they can sell, right? If they upsell you to the special of the day, or if they upsell you to buy a glass of wine, then like they get it. So yeah, absolutely. We have definitely found people there. And just so that I don't forget to mention it, you know, you can obviously go some traditional routes as well, posting on online, you know, job searches and stuff like that, and certainly connecting with your course providers in your area.
Yeah.
So one recommendation I do have, if you're looking for somebody with a bit more experience, is connect with the course providers who provide courses other than the PT cert.
Yeah.
So for example, if there's someone in your community who teaches a kettlebell certification, programming certification, you know, functional movement system certification, whatever, if they teach something other than your basic PT, chances are those people are a little bit more experienced. And if you have a good relationship with the instructor there, they might make some recommendations for you of people who are taking their courses.
I've also found local colleges, universities.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely.
And talking of the internship, I believe the audience will be interested in this answer. Would it be a paid internship or would it be a free? Free as in not paid for. Obviously they're giving their time, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that is really that you have to check with your local, rules, government, that kind of stuff, because there have been a lot of labor type issues in some areas about doing free internships where you're getting people to work and not paying them. So I would just be careful of that and figure out what's going on where you live. But I think ideally you would do it paid. You don't have to pay them as much as you would pay a trainer. You could pay them minimum wage or just above it. And obviously you're presenting it as a learning opportunity for them. So it would be cheaper than having a trainer come on right away. But I think if you can, I would plan to do a paid internship.
Great. I just wanted to highlight 2 points, which I think you made was absolutely excellent, was the fact that hire based on the salesmanship and also their personality, because I think they're 2 key things that as trainers often forget or don't feel that we need, because we feel that our knowledge in exercise and nutrition is going to be everything that we need basically to help this client in front of us. And if you somehow have a bit of insight to how to persuade people, it's not going to help with themselves, it's going to help influence them to change when you have them as a client. So I think that was 2 great points that you highlighted.
Thank you.
Next question. Talking of hiring, what would be the typical new employee onboarding process look like? What would it look like? So the gym owner gained maximum benefit and so did the trainer. I know that we spoke about probably onboarding them with an internship at first, but how would it look after that?
Yeah. Okay. So when you're onboarding somebody, one of the things that I have, in my sort of vault is a list of all the things that you may want to cover with the trainer. And what you cover will depend on the type of facility that you have and what that stuff. But I think a couple of key things. Number one is you always want to do some goal setting with a new trainer on the first day, as quickly as you possibly can, day one, because you want to build a relationship with them. The number one reason people leave their jobs is because of their boss.
Okay.
So if you can avoid that because you've built a really great relationship with them from day one, then I think that is one of the most important things you can do. So definitely do your goal setting on day one.
So it's taking an interest. Sorry for interjecting.
That's okay.
Taking an interest in the individual on what they do.
Absolutely. And that will come in, down the line as well when you're dealing with motivation issues or people not getting things done either at all or the way they're supposed to and stuff like that. You'll be able to go back to the goals and kind of say, look, here's what you said you wanted. Yeah. If we keep doing things this way, we're not going to be able to make that happen. So how can I help you do things the way they're supposed to be so we can get you to your goals? Mm-hmm. So one of the things, this is kind of off track and then we'll get back to it, but one of the things that a lot of fitness business owners do is they talk about their numbers and their financial stuff to the trainer. And I agree the trainer should know their own numbers, but for the purpose of achieving their goals, which in turn helps you achieve yours, not because you're pushing them to help achieve your revenue goals.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's really interesting, fascinating, actually. Why would you say that?
Well, I think what happens is instead of the owner going to the trainer and saying, hey, you told me in your goal setting you wanted to make X amount of money a month, which means you have to sell X number of clients this month, whatever the case may be. How can we help you do that? What happens a lot is the owner has set some kind of goals for themselves. They want to generate $20 or $30 or $50,000 for the month. Maybe it's 10, whatever it is. And instead of going to the trainer and making it about the trainer, they're going to the trainer and saying, I need to make $20,000 this month. You better sell.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
And so when you make it about you, instead of about the trainer and what they want, it's a completely different scenario. So now instead of motivating them to get the things that they're looking for, it's more of a pressure and a stress situation to help you get what you want. And to be honest, they don't really care about what you want.
Of course.
And they don't need to. What they need to care about is their business and their clients, which if you do it right, in turn will grow yours.
Of course. Yeah. Great point.
So sorry, side note on all of that, but I think it's really important because it does happen a lot. And that's why a lot of people see trainers leave.
I appreciate that. It's a great point to bring up as well. So there's the goal setting.
So goal setting, definitely. I would definitely review the job profile. So number one, you need to have a job profile that explains what the trainer is responsible for. And then you'd want to review it step by step. So there's no confusion about what their job is. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the other thing is, I always like to have a schedule for them. So you never want the trainer to, kind of show up and be like, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? This isn't the time to leave them to their own devices. This is the time to send them a schedule on Sunday and say, here's what you need to do this week. Here are the topics we're going to be covering. So just some examples of things you would include, right? You're going to do your goal setting with me. You're going to do your job profile with me. You're going to spend an hour or two, if you have a front desk, covering the front desk so that you can see how the club works. So I always recommend that the trainer spends time in the other departments if you have them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to spend an hour in the sales department and seeing what they do to sell memberships. You're going to shadow 3 different trainers on 3 different days throughout the week. Some of the other things I would include would be any trainings that you do, let's say you're teaching them how to sell, and then you would have some time where they're practicing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There may be some, what I would also do as a manager or owner is collect some articles or readings or books that you want people to know and learn and make that a part of their schedule. So maybe they spend half an hour a day doing some reading stuff. Obviously, you're going to have them participate in any meetings that are going on throughout the week or the month. I think those are the main things. So goal setting, job profile for sure, making sure you're spending time with them personally, doing some of the teaching of the topics for the things they need to learn, get them in all the different departments so they can see how the club works. Get them on the floor. I didn't mention that one, but get them on the floor for sure to just meet the members. Even if you're in a commercial gym, they could even go into some classes and either take them or help spot in them. Mm-hmm. Make sure they introduce themselves in the class. Hey, I'm the new trainer. My name's Jodi. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to be in the class today. I'm going to be taking it. But if you have any questions or you need some help, just throw up your hand and I'll pop over and help you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think that's a good basic overview.
Yeah, I think that's a great base to start from, especially in the early stages of the trainer's journey, career at a gym.
Yeah, and if I can just add one other thing, I think, maybe it's 2. One is, as you go through the first 6 weeks with somebody, you want to make sure that you are constantly following up with them, assessing what's going on, giving them feedback, because the faster you do that, the faster they're going to get better. Mm-hmm. So if you can talk to somebody about something one day, give them the feedback and follow up the next day, you want to make sure they're using the feedback you gave them. They're going to get better faster than if you don't talk to them again for a week about it.
Yeah, and I think also from the owner's point of view, it's an opportunity for you to learn as well.
For sure.
Because how you might approach speaking to a client, which I hope it was actually quite similar to how you would speak to an employer, a trainer. It's extra work that you need to get to work on as well. It's not natural to you, especially if you are a first-time gym owner. It's a learnable skill. You've got to empower that trainer just as you would empower a client.
Absolutely.
And know how to give feedback in the most appropriate way without making them feel disempowered or disheartened, essentially. So I think it's a great one. Mm-hmm.
And even down the line, you may not do this at the very beginning because you might only need one person at a time. But as you're going down the line and when you have a system in place to generate leads where if you hire someone, you can bring people in for them, excuse me, I definitely recommend that you hire 2 people at a time.
Okay.
So what that does is it allows you to teach things once instead of twice in the same 6-week period. And when you teach something, it also allows you to send them off to practice together rather than having to practice with you. Mm-hmm. So that frees up your time a little bit. And then all you're doing is really the follow-up and the feedback instead of having to spend all the hours with them to help them learn it. You can teach them the basics together, and then off they go and they come back to you. So it's a huge time saver. And it also creates a bit of camaraderie and, culture and stuff like that by allowing them to come in together and sort of be in the same boat together. So I always recommend, when you're ready, that you hire 2 people at a time.
That's actually a great point. And I really wish I was told that point when I was hiring. That's a great point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
And talking of all this, because this might sound to somebody that's listening in a lot of time, really time consuming, and you put a lot of effort into it, and you're giving a lot of your intellectual property over to a stranger, should we say, to begin with. How could a studio owner not fall prey to the trainer thinking that they could actually go and do this all on their own? Once they've got my IP, they can move out and set up on themselves. What would you suggest are the practical ways to limit this happening? Or what advice would you have to the owner that's thinking this way?
Sure. Okay, so I might get some people who disagree with this, but in my opinion, if you have somebody who wants to open their own business, maybe you wouldn't hire them if you knew they wanted to open their own business in the next year. Okay. But if you have somebody who you've had for a while, and as they've grown, they've decided they want to own their own business, my opinion is you should help them do that. There is no reason to hold them back and try to keep them and all of that stuff. Your job is to be a leader and is to teach them. And if you are good enough to have helped somebody get to a place where they have, felt like they're ready to go out on their own, then you did something great, right? Like, if we're in this industry to help grow and help develop people and help make better trainers so we can help more people, clients, general population, whatever it is, then that's a great thing. So to me, the idea of holding somebody back or trying to hold on to them if that's what they really want is not necessary. Like, there's enough to go around. There are enough people who need our help. Obviously, it's one thing if they're going to steal your systems and try to go use them. But even at the end of the day, if someone else does exactly what you do, the way you do it, it doesn't mean it's going to work for them.
Of course.
So I wouldn't even worry about that. If they want to go, help them go. That's that. But having said that, in order to keep people who aren't going to go on their own, but who, want to work for somebody and want to be happy and want to grow within a company and all that, that's another thing. And that is, creating a really strong culture, which to me, again, starts with the goal setting. It starts with getting to know everybody in the company. It starts with, feeling included, with having a boss who really cares about you. So, not only are you going to do the goal setting, but depending on the size of your team and your club and stuff like that, you would want to be following up with your trainers, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, to follow up on those goals. Every day when you come into the club, the first thing I did in my clubs was do a walk around every single day. It doesn't matter if I've been in the same club for 3 years. The first thing you do is walk the floor. Say hello to your members, say hello to your trainers. If the trainer isn't working, have a quick chat with them. How you doing? What's going on? You've got to create a relationship with them where they feel like this is their home away from home, because the truth is they spend more hours with you than they do at home.
Yeah, and that's so ridiculous. I can't remember what the stats are. I only just read that the other day. It's ridiculous how much time you spend at work in comparison to home.
Especially as trainers, right?
Some great points there. I thought it was just escaping me, but I'm sure it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I can't remember who said it. It was one of my mentors, I think it was. It was to have the mindset that you've just actually said. That perspective was great advice. What if you don't train them and they stay around?
Right.
They're not going to be as good as you'd like them to be, and it's going to represent your brand in a negative way of some sort.
That's right.
And I like the abundancy mindset of thinking actually there's a whole load of people out there. The reason why we're getting into this industry is to help people. So it actually is really good of you to be able to have that, as especially when you're hiring new trainers, to say that we've actually done this with this trainer and they've gone on to do this success. It's real. It's a selling point for yourself as well when you're hiring people. Absolutely.
Like there's really no shortage out there of clients for us. So there's no reason not to help somebody achieve their dreams. And that is something, that's what a leader does. Right. And so, if they want to stay with you, there are lots of ways even to help. Like, you still want to help someone develop and grow within the business. So, part of that goal setting is understanding, like, does this person want to be the best trainer in the club, the most knowledgeable, have the most certifications? Maybe that's their goal. Are they interested in becoming a manager of some sort at some point, right? Like, what other things, what do they want to learn about? Where do they want to get better? So part of, like, when I do the goal setting, part of it is a career section where you talk about this stuff, and it's like, okay, where do you want to get better? And I think this will segue into one of the other questions, but one of the best things that you can do as an owner or manager is to be investing in yourself all the time, so that when you have people come to you and say, I want to get better at public speaking, I want to get better at sales, I want to get better at my customer service stuff, I want to get better at having hard conversations with my clients who aren't, complying with the program, that you have some suggestions for them, right? So a big part of helping keep your people is going to be development. Like, do you always teach them new things? Like, people should never, ever, ever hold a meeting unless you're going to teach somebody something new.
That's a great
If you're just exchanging information, send it in an email.
Yeah.
They don't need to be in a meeting to do that.
No.
So when you get together with them, it's like, are you guys working on programming today? Are you role playing how to have this conversation with somebody who keeps canceling their sessions? Are you role playing how to follow up with someone who keeps not writing in their nutrition journal? Like, right? You have to teach them skills and build them up and make them more confident. That's what makes people stay. That's what makes them loyal to you.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I think it's those IS values, isn't it? If I remember correctly, it's contribution and growth. Once you offer them to people, they will create loyalty for you. They will be loyal.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
Exactly.
Great points there. I have another question for you on that, but again, it escapes me, but I'll come back to it. I just want to move on to my next question.
Yeah.
This was actually a question that was sent by our Facebook group, the Fitman Collective, by a gentleman called Jonathan Muller, who's a personal trainer, aspiring online coach. And his question was, what's the number one thing that holds most fitness professionals back from reaching their desired numbers?
We're going to laugh because the number one reason that they don't reach their numbers is because they don't know their numbers.
Yeah. And when we're talking of numbers, Jodi, let's break it down for them. I know there's a whole host of numbers that we can consider here, but what would be, in your mind, the most important one first?
Yeah, like, to me, the basics, before we get into like the revenue and expenses of the club and all that stuff, the three basics are going to be your book, show, and close rate on your consultations. So you need to absolutely know all the time, how many people, when you get leads, so your leads are coming in, whether it's through the door, on the phone, by email, doesn't matter. When your leads are coming in, you need to know how many people, when you get on the phone with them or you go back and forth with email, how many people are you able to book from that? So if you talk to 10 people, are you booking 8 or 9 or 10 of them? And then from there, how many of them are showing up, right? If you book 8 people, are 2 showing up or are 6 showing up? Because it's a huge, huge difference. And then of those people that do show up, how many of them are you closing? So if you don't know those numbers, it's very hard for you to plan and to know what you need to do in order to get the result that you're looking for, right? So if you know that you close, out of those 10 people, 8 people get booked, 4 people show, and you close 2 of them, great. If your average sale is $3,000, it takes 10 leads to make you $6,000. And then you can tweak how you're doing your lead generation system and what you need coming into the top of your sales funnel, whether it's online or in person, it doesn't matter. You need to figure out how many people you need coming into the top so that you can get the result that you're looking for at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it needs to make sense in terms of the amount you're spending to make that happen and what that end result is, right? If you're spending $10,000 to make 6, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you've also got to figure out your lead generation systems and what you can use or what works well and what makes sense in terms of the revenue that it drives versus the amount that you're spending to make it happen.
Yeah, and they're the basics, aren't they, that we should all be following, as you said. And I suppose it helps us identify where those businesses are as well. Because you may be having a boatload of leads, but for whatever reason, your front of desk is not converting them from phone calls to actual sit in front of you consultations. So, there's a week
Absolutely.
there. So that's where the work or the training for the next month or week could be there, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for you that wasn't on our pre-script, should we say.
That's okay.
Would you set targets then around the amount of revenue that you want or the amount of clients? That makes sense?
Yeah, good question. To be honest, I'm not really sure that it matters which one you choose, because at the end of the day, like, the numbers that you pick has to align with the other. Like, if you pick that you're going for the number of clients, it still needs to bring you a certain amount of revenue, and you still need to know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you want to focus on that in terms of your lead generation, how you run your system, that's fine. But the end goal, when you're setting it, needs to align with the revenue regardless. And vice versa, because there's a big difference between, gaining, if you have to do $10,000 in revenue, it's a big difference whether it's 5 people at $2,000 or 2 people at $5,000, because that means you have a different number of clients, which will change what your trainers are doing and how full they are and the money that they're making.
True.
So you almost have to do both. And actually, one of the metrics that I use with my clients with one-on-one training is how many hours they're working. So even rather than look at the revenue or the number of clients, it's how many hours are they working, because that for them determines how much money they make.
True.
So if somebody, let's say they know they're making $30 an hour, and their goal is to work 30 hours a week so that they can make the money that they want to make, then that's really what the goal is. Yeah. And you can use, I don't want to get too like mathy over here, but you can use the number of hours that your team is servicing to predict the amount of revenue you need, because in order to keep the number of clients that you have, you need to replenish those hours.
Yeah.
So like if your team is working 300 hours a month, and that would mean you would have a team of 5 or 6. If you're working 300 hours a month, you're going to multiply that by the average cost per session. And that's going to give you the basic amount of revenue you need every month in order to keep that happening.
Yes, of course.
So I would say you actually need to do both. And really the biggest number I would look at would be your hours worked per trainer. Yeah.
It's important because it can, I imagine, be a lot of hours because they're obviously focused and if they're goal orientated towards a certain income, they'll work every hour.
Exactly. Well, that, like, at least with the hours, maybe they have clients that come in twice a week and they have clients that come in 3 times a week, and it varies, but they know what their hours are. And so based on their hours, they know how many more clients they need at what frequency. Mm-hmm. And then they can figure out like how many clients they need to gain personally. And the owner or manager should be doing that with each trainer so that they know what they need to do for themselves every month.
Yeah, and I think another important number is obviously attrition, isn't it? Retention.
Yes, absolutely.
As well, because I picked that up off your website. It's astounding statistics.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
$60,000 it can cost people to lose somebody.
Jesus.
It's a lot of money.
It's tracking those numbers as well, right? Because
yes.
Firstly, the length of time the client staying with you, and secondly, trying to come to understand why that client might leave before they've actually achieved a result. And there's many reasons for that, obviously. But yeah, talking of numbers, I just want to reiterate, it's very important, and it's something that I was told just similar to this, and I ignored it, chose to ignore it, didn't think it was important. And I can't tell you how important they are, and I can't stress how important they are to the audience that is listening. Because it really just identify where your weaknesses were. So my weakness initially was at the sales point, the converting point. So it made absolute sense for me to then go and learn about sales and influence and persuasion and all the sorts that come with that. And it's not a bad thing, by the way, sales. So yeah, it's a great point. And just those basic numbers. And I would also suggest to the trainer that's already working at a commercial gym thinking, well, these numbers this doesn't consider me or factor me because I'm at a commercial gym. They kind of drip feed clients to me. I think to set you up for the future, it's good to get your head around those numbers from get go, so that they become a habit. Because numbers is not a natural thing for trainers, as you said.
That's right.
It makes sense to build a habit very early on so that you adopt that So when you do have your own place, it becomes a lot easier for you.
Absolutely. And if you're in a situation where you are given your clients, I actually recommend that you learn how to sell anyways. Like, get your manager or owner to teach you how, because the number one thing that you can learn in life is how to sell.
You have to sell your client into a lot of things. You have to sell your clients into a lot of things. What to eat, when to train. And you're right.
Yes.
You're right. Selling is in absolutely everything that you do day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answer. And
no problem.
I'm sure Jonathan would be appreciative of that as well.
Hope so.
What are your top reasons, observations from all your experience working with small gym, personal training studios, etc.? Why would they fail?
Okay, this is a good one. I have sort of a list of answers actually.
Okay, yeah.
But they all sort of tie into each other. One is they don't know their numbers, which we just finished talking about. It's impossible to run your business if you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's coming in. You don't know what's coming out. You don't know how to plan ahead because you don't know what your book show and close rates are. Knowing your numbers is one thing that I find a lot of people don't know, and they need to. Having systems. So, what happens a lot is the small business owners are doing things on the fly every single time. And so every single time you go to do something that has actually happened many times before, you're redoing it. Yeah. And so instead of having a consistent email or phone call script or template that you use for something, you're redoing it every single time, which is using up, your brain space and your time, because you're basically recreating. So you really want to have some systems in place, which will help you get things done faster. It will help you get focused. It'll help you be way more productive. So that's a huge, huge one. And which kind of ties in with wearing all of the hats, right? So when you have your systems in place, if you know exactly the way you talk to somebody in order to book an appointment, in order to confirm the appointment, you know exactly how the consultation goes when you sit down with them, you know how to sell, there's a system for it, it's a lot easier to bring somebody else on, teach them the system, and then allow them to do the same thing that you do.
I suppose you can keep them accountable as well then to that, can't you?
Absolutely, yes. So, a lot of fitness business owners are wearing all these different hats because they haven't put in the system in place in order to teach somebody else how to do what they do. And so now they're freaking out because someone else is going to come in and do it some way that they don't like. And it's because they didn't start with the system. So those kind of go together. And the last one is just investing in yourself. If you're going to be an owner, you need to, whether it's going to events or whether it's listening to podcasts or audiobooks or reading or going to courses, whatever it is, you always need to be investing in yourself, like I talked about a little bit before, because you need to be able to help your people learn, develop, and grow too.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
That was a great point. And you just reminded me of what I wanted to say previously about where you was there as a coach to the trainer, father figure, whatever it might well be, to help them grow. And similar to what you just said now, we often forget of our own wellness. We neglect ourselves because we put so much onus on the client, possibly our staff as well. But we have to look at our own wellness as well, by investing in coaches. And you don't appreciate the power of coaching until you have it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I talk about a lot too is trying to create goals for something you've never done before.
Yeah.
And to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, I know, as I started my own entrepreneurial journey, I tried to set goals and it was just like a shot in the dark, right? I was making it up. I didn't know what was really possible. I didn't know, like I always tell my people that I want them to set goals that are realistic but aggressive.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something you've never done before, you don't know what the steps look like, and B, you can't even set the goal in the first place because it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody to work with who's done it before, they can help kind of guide you and say, yes, yeah, this makes sense for you, or no, it doesn't. Here's how we can get it to be realistic but aggressive. And just like help you be able to set the original goal in the first place, and then help you create the steps in order to reach it. Because, trying to do it on your own when you haven't done it before is a really daunting task.
Yeah, it's very similar to what you offer your clients. The trainer offers their clients, right? And the most one of the an important point also is the accountability, because we can quite often rationalize with ourselves and we don't have that coach to be accountable. So I know I fell into that trap many times. It's okay. Yeah. No one's watching me. So it's only, I've only got to question myself.
Exactly. So and most people are, if anyone's ever heard of Gretchen Rubin, she talks about people being an obliger, which means that you're really good at following direction and doing things when there's outside, not pressure, but when there's someone outside watching, rather than being internally motivated to do things yourself. And most people are obligers.
Especially trained.
And so it makes sense that you need a buddy of some sort, whether it's a coach or a fellow colleague or someone to hold you accountable to make sure that you actually achieve the goals that you set out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Anything more on the top reason observations why a small gym personal trainer would fail? I know we're going to go into one of our last questions soon.
Yeah, no, I think we've got it. So the numbers, systems, investing in yourself, and just making sure you're not wearing all the hats.
Great points. Last question, because I know I'm taking up a lot of your time here.
That's
what do the best managers, owners have in common? So it's kind of the opposite, I suppose.
I was just going to say, it's sort of the opposite. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, the top people are investing in themselves all the time. Like I said, reading, podcast, coaching, going to events, that kind of stuff.
In different areas as well, aren't they? In different areas as well. It might well be that when they first got into the industry, it was all about exercise, nutrition, etc., coaching. But I suppose they have to also consider, like you said, leadership skills and all the
like marketing, mindset, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So it's always great to do like conferences or events that are outside of the industry as well. They're outsourcing. So same thing, not wearing all the hats. They're outsourcing and letting someone else do the stuff they're not that good at. And the last thing is they're serving their staff. So I think that's one word that I'll never forget. The first boss that I had who said that to me. And she just said, you know what, Jodi, like, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you do what you want to do. That's my job. And I will let you, try and do what you need to do, but I will catch you before you fall.
Great. So it's like giving you ownership, more or less, isn't it?
It was awesome. Like, I still remember it. It's been, 6 years since that happened. And I still remember it so clearly. And I just think it's so important. Like, you're there to serve your people. That's what you do as an owner or as a manager. They're not there to serve you. They're not there to make sure that you hit your revenue goals. That's not what it needs to be about. If it's about that, you might not make it, because that's not going to create the culture you're looking for. It's not going to create the motivation you're looking for. You're going to have people who leave constantly. So if you can really get into the mindset that you're serving your people and people become then loyal to you and you're helping them grow and develop and create a career out of something that they love, that's when you're going to win.
There seems to be something in that, isn't that, where you're serving something bigger than yourself. And you hear a lot of successful coaches say that successful people, or successful people that vouch for that. You're serving something bigger than yourself and possibly outside of yourself. Tends to bring great value to yourself, actually. I'm just thinking, is there possibly anything that probably crossed your mind whilst we've been doing this show that I haven't asked you and you feel would be of tremendous value to the listeners?
I think we covered a lot of really great stuff. Like, I think, where it happened, I kind of jumped in and gave a little extra on something that might have been on a tangent, but was worth talking about. Nothing I can think of, honestly, off the top of my head. I think, the big keys are, development, investing in yourself, creating systems that work, outsourcing for the things that you don't need, and serving your staff. If you can do all of those things, you're going to be laughing.
Excellent. That's great advice. And for those that do have a question, do want to follow up with you, Jodi, where's the best place that I can send them to?
Absolutely. So we'll be leaving the URLs and everything in the show notes as well, right? So if you don't catch what I'm saying, don't worry about it. It'll be in there. But there are two different ways that would be best. One is I do have an ebook out that's about building your six-figure business. So if you want to grab that, it's just jodirumack.com/max-your-biz. And if if you feel like you're looking for some help, you want to get some coaching, you want to talk about that and see if that makes sense for you, then same, jodirumack.com/book-me. So you can find me at either of those two places, depending on what you'd like to do.
Excellent. Yeah, as Jodi said, they'll be included on the show notes. So you can just head over there and follow up on the ebook or the call that you're offering. Jodi, I've got to say thank you for your time this evening. I know we've gone over a bit, but I believe the audience is going to receive tremendous value from what you've had to say today.
Awesome.
I really appreciate your time, and I'm really excited that you were the first female to be guest on this show. And I appreciate you and giving off value that you have done today. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. I always love this kind of stuff. It's great to talk about it. It's great to get your feedback as well. And, kind of have your stories and what has happened too, and be able to help as many people as we can. So thanks so much for having me today.
You're welcome. That's the end of this episode, but not without thanking Jodi once again. I'm sure you will all agree that she's doing a fantastic job in the fitness industry, especially when it comes to giving your personal trainers the career they want so that you ultimately get the life that you want. I would also highly recommend her blog post, PT Packages versus PT Memberships, How PT Should Charge for Their Services in 2017. It's a very good read. Once again, thank you to you guys for listening. It really does mean a lot. If you pop over to www.thefitmancollective.com website, you will be able to access all the show notes, the links and resources that were mentioned in the show. Now, if you genuinely like the podcast, then it would be a huge help if you subscribed and left a rating and review. It might seem insignificant, but it helps more than you think. So thank you once again. That's Johanny, the Fitman Collective podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fitman Collective podcast. This is your life. Don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle for average. Don't even settle for great. Beware the average man who attracts an average companion. Beware the great man who believes they've achieved everything and appears just a little too comfortable. Don't be them. Become the patient wolf. The Fitman Collective is waiting for you. Know yourself. With us, reinvent yourself and your place in this world. Body, mind, health, relationships, career, money, all of it, and more. We can never be caught. We can never be categorized. The Fitman Collective reinvents the future of the Fit Pro. The Fit Man makes his own fate. Join us at thefitmancollective.com.